I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street.
Happy holidays, guys. It's that time of year again. The time where everybody rushes to Amazon to buy all their shit for all their friends and family. This year, since all of you are now my friends, I'm asking you for a favor. I don't need you to send me anything for Christmas, but I appreciate the thought. What I would like for you to do instead is to do all of your Amazon shopping through Amazon. Well, that's easy, right? I'm not asking too much. There's one thing I'm going to ask you to do. To get to Amazon, I need you to go to fascinationstreetpod.com and click on the Amazon banner on my homepage. Nothing will be any different, and then do all of your Amazon shopping as you normally would. The only difference is that you're walking in through the door that's marked Fascination Street Podcast. It tells Amazon that you love me, and they throw a couple of shekels my way for everything you purchase. That's it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And happy holidays from Steve Owens and Fascination Street Podcast. From now until December 31st, 2018, the James Beard Foundation is accepting nominations for the 2019 James Beard Awards. And I invite all of you to join me in nominating Chef Stephen McHugh from Cured in San Antonio, Texas, for the 2019 James Beard Award for Best Chef Southwest. I've made it easy to do this, guys. If you go to fascinationstreetpod.com and look to the right of the page, there will be a photo of Chef Stephen McHugh. When you click on that photo, it will take you to the 2019 James Beard Award page. You will need to create an account, but that'll only take about 60 seconds and they don't ask for much. It's really just a name and password kind of a thing. Once you've created an account, it will take you to the nominations page. From there, you'll click on the 2019 Restaurant and Chef Awards, and then complete the submission form, making sure to select Best Chef Southwest as the category. It's that easy, guys. All it takes is 5 minutes of your time, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. So thank you in advance, and now let's get to this week's episode. Welcome back, folks. This episode is with director Viet Nguyen. Viet grew up in Austin, Texas, and was inspired by one of his high school teachers to get into the film business. That teacher was Rob Thomas, the creator of Veronica Mars and iZombie. In this episode, Viet talks about what it was like to have Rob as a teacher. He also tells us about a very interesting interaction he had in Waco at the Branch Davidian David Koresh versus the ATF standoff. We also talk about pho, the San Antonio Spurs, and how Viet got into directing episodes of iZombie, The Flash, Lucifer, and of course we talk about Viet's full-length feature, Crush the Skull, available now on Amazon Prime for free. I love this movie, guys. It's 1 part horror, 3 parts comedy. Enjoy, guys. This is director Viet Nguyen.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street, Viet Nguyen. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy day to hang out with me. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Originally, you are born and raised in Austin. Well, I don't know if you're raised, but you're from Austin, right?
Actually, technically, I was born in Waco, Texas. But I grew up in Austin from year 0 to I moved out here about 15 years ago. So yeah, I'm a proud Texan from Austin, specifically.
Very cool. For those of you out there who don't really know anything about Waco, Waco is famous for 3 things. They're famous for the David Koresh weird massacre thing, and then
Correct.
They're also famous for, I believe there is a Dr. Pepper museum there.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
I actually didn't even know that.
Yes. And most currently, they're famous for Chip and Joanna Gaines' TV show about fixing houses and selling them.
That's correct. So I'm so old school. I'm like old school Waco before them.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So that's where he was born, but then he quickly got the hell out of there because that was going to hell in a handbasket, so he went to Austin.
That's correct. I was technically born in Waco, but I literally know nothing about Waco, except the Branch Davidian thing, actually.
Sure.
Which I actually have a story about that, but we can wait. I can talk about that during a certain part of talking about like how I got into film and everything.
All right, cool. Viet Nguyen, you grew up in Austin. I'm going to guess that your age is late 30s, early 40s?
Correct.
Oh, sweet. So that means
that is correct.
That means that you are inspired by Richard Linklater, right?
I am a Linklater fan, and Robert Rodriguez was kind of a big deal to me. It was also around the same time as when Tarantino kind of got onto the scene, so they were like big influences for me, for sure.
Who?
Some guy. Whatever happened to that guy, Quentin Tarantino? Did he ever do anything else?
I think he owns real estate now. I think that's it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he works at a video store.
Exactly.
Hey, you know what?
Exactly.
You travel a lot, and since you're a Tarantino fan, I'm going to clue you in on this little tidbit. There's a guy who was originally from Houston. His name is Jacob Trevino, and he has been in the hospitality industry for quite a while, bartender and coming up with crazy-ass cocktails and things like that. He moved to downtown Cincinnati and opened up the Video Archive. Now, the Video Archive originally was the VHS rental store that Quentin Tarantino worked at. But in this case, the Video Archive is a storefront that looks like a video rental store until you pull on whatever the magic videotape is for the week. And then the wall opens up and it's a Quentin Tarantino themed speakeasy.
No way.
Yeah, and it's super dope as shit. I went there to interview the guy and it is amazing.
Oh, wow. This is in Cincinnati? This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's in downtown Cincinnati.
Oh my gosh. I don't know whenever I'm going to be there, but holy shit, that will be on my list for sure. That sounds awesome.
It's really, really cool. I'll send you some pictures of it. It's amazing.
All right.
So,
for sure, dude.
So you're in high school studying the regular high school things, which would, I guess, notably be, the Texas Longhorns and girls. Now, when did you decide that you wanted to get into the film business or television business, Hollywood, show business?
Well, it was actually in high school. I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but Rob Thomas, creator of Veronica Mars and iZombie and other stuff, he used to teach high school in Austin, Texas.
Shut up.
I was one of his students.
Are you serious?
I was one of his students. Yep, I'm serious. So, I grew up on the east side of Austin. I didn't go to Westlake or Austin High or anything like that. We were kind of like, we had limited resources in our school, but Rob Thomas comes in. He was 26-year-old teacher who was also in a rock band and stuff. He started teaching journalism there, and he decided to do a broadcast journalism class, ordered a bunch of equipment that somebody just told him to order. He didn't know how to use any of it, and he basically just started this class. I applied for it, and then I was basically the nerd in that class that decided to actually read the manual and figure out how to do everything. So it was that class where I learned how to shoot video and edit stuff together and all that stuff. And then we were all under the guidance of Rob Thomas, who tried to teach us how to write news stories and everything. And during that time with him, that's when I kind of got influenced in possibly working in entertainment. I actually had no idea that there were so many jobs in entertainment, and I didn't even think that it was a possibility. But he was kind of the teacher that kind of said, oh yeah, there's jobs. We talked about movies all the time, and we talked about all kinds of things, and it was something obviously that he was aspiring to do as well. And then before you know it, he only actually taught me 1 year. He got a book deal. He took off. He was doing all this stuff. And meanwhile, I went to film school at UT. And before you know it, we always kept in touch and everything. But before you know it, he got a couple shows on the air. But then when he finally got Veronica Mars on the air, he gives me a call and he's like, hey, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to direct. And he's like, no, that's not how it works. I'm not going to just let you direct an episode of Veronica Mars. But, what's a job that you think that you'd be good at? And I said, well, doing all the short films that I've done and everything, I guess editing was one of the kind of my stronger suits. So I decided to go into post-production. So he made me a post-PA. That was my job. My job was to deliver runs and pick up lunches for everybody. And I drove to LAX every day. Anybody who lives in LA knows that was basically a 3-hour round trip every day for me. And I was in my Nissan Pathfinder that was getting like probably like 12 miles a gallon because I had just driven in from Texas. And, I was a PA doing that, and that's kind of how I started. And then I kind of, throughout my career, Rob Thomas was always kind of the person who gave me that big bump. So by the end of Veronica Mars, I became an assistant editor on that show. And then when he created the show Party Down, I became an editor on that show. And then I edited for many years on a bunch of other stuff. And meanwhile, doing my own short films and doing all kinds of other stuff that I was directing on my own. And then when iZombie came around, I edited the pilot. And then when that got picked up, I ended up directing a few episodes, which he gave me the bump to do. Yeah, during that time I had done my feature film by then as well and all this stuff. So, I was kind of doing things simultaneously on the side. And then, when iZombie came around, I got the opportunity to do TV. So then I directed a few episodes of that. And then eventually I got Rob's blessing to leave the nest and kind of do the directing thing full time. And, just been doing that for the last couple of years now, just directing full time now. So it's been about 15 years since I was a PA. So I definitely don't take myself as an overnight success or anything. But I did have Rob Thomas as an angel during that whole process. So I was very lucky in that sense.
It sounds like. Just for clarity, guys, when he says Rob Thomas, he's not talking about the singer of Matchbox 20. Fans,
that's correct.
Fans of my show know that I'm a big fan of the Nooner podcast, which was originally started by Dan Etheridge and Marty Yu. This is that Rob Thomas, guys.
Yeah. So yes, Dan Etheridge, Marty Yu. I know all those guys. I go way back with those guys. What's funny is that Rob Thomas and I actually, one thing that we do share in common is that we are not the most famous person with our names. So Rob Thomas obviously is not as famous as Matchbox 20 Rob Thomas. And for me, Viet Nguyen, there's actually a guy who just won the Pulitzer Prize writing a novel.
It's called
he just won about a couple of years.
It's called The Sympathizer.
Yeah, that's correct. And that motherfucker is more popular than me and more famous than me. And I always thought that I would be the most famous Viet Nguyen, but oh well. Turns out also, but for the longest time, people would always be like, when I'd work with people, they're like, oh, I can't wait to, read your book, or I'm so, it's an honor to meet you. And I'm just like, no, that's not me. That's not me. And then through actually like my network of friends, I actually ended up meeting the guy, and now I'm friends with him. So like he and I are friends, and our kids are around the same age, so they play together and stuff. So it's actually pretty funny.
So that means he lives near you as well?
Yeah, he lives in LA as well, yeah.
What a pain in the ass.
Exactly. And he recently put his house up for sale, and I said, how convenient would it be for the mailman if I just bought your house?
Oh my God, that'd be awesome. How convenient would it be for you if you accidentally got his check in the mail?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Or at least I at least want to get invited to the White House or something.
Sure.
Something cool like that.
Well, maybe you want to wait a few years before you get invited to the White House.
Yeah, off of him, obviously. Because no one would ever invite a guy who directed, a couple of episodes of The Flash and iZombie to the White House.
Well, much like the Rob Thomases, one of their star is on the rise and one of their star is fading. I feel that's probably, that's in the future for Viet Nguyen. You're going to pass that dude. Do not worry.
He's more handsome, but that's a whole other thing.
Son of a... Okay.
I don't take it personally.
So I watched a film last night. It's right now, guys. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Crush the Skull, and it is, in my description, I would say it is a horror movie that is fucking hilarious, sort of in the same way that Tucker and Dale versus Evil was hilarious. This movie was very, very funny, dude. Well done.
Thanks so much. Thanks for watching it. You are like viewer number 19 now, if I'm keeping a tally.
Well, I do want to say before we get started, I just want to let you know that you do have the right to remain silent, bitch. So one of the funniest things, there was hilarity all throughout that, and I wasn't expecting it because, like you said, I'm the 19th viewer, so I had not really heard of this, and so I kind of wasn't sure what to expect. So whenever there was something funny, it sort of came out of left field, and I just could not stop laughing. Like, I had to pause it a few times because I didn't want to miss whatever was about to happen because I was laughing so hard.
Oh.
And
thank you. I really appreciate it. That means a lot, actually.
And one of them is when the stars figure out that they're sort of trapped in this place and they're trying to get out. And the one guy says, "We tried everything." And then the other guy looks at him totally dead serious and says, "Have you tried playing dead?" I lost my shit. That was so funny. Oh my God. Because of the callback, you have to watch it, guys.
Right.
It's really, really funny.
Yes. There's a little bit of setup to that joke, by the way, everyone who's listening.
Yes, it's way funnier than I made it sound. It's a callback to something earlier in the episode, but it is really funny. And also, I do think that was pretty prescient to say that the first guy who gets killed is usually the black guy. Okay.
Yeah. That movie was basically one of those movies where it was a Kickstarter thing, raised, and honestly, it was a lot of Veronica Mars fans who kind of like kicked into that project because I was involved in the Veronica Mars movie. Rob Thomas, once again, sent out, a message to all his supporters and said, hey, this guy's making a movie. And because I was, involved in the Veronica Mars movie, and when I had made a documentary, I had met a lot of the fans who had come to the set of that movie. And so there was a lot of those guys who kind of came through and like helped support this little movie. And so, we made this movie for basically nothing in movie budget standards, but it was, it was one of those fun little things that no one was looking over our back, and we basically did whatever the fuck we wanted. And there's our movie, warts and all. It's out there, exactly the way we wanted to make it. So yeah, it was one of those great experiences, and I'm hoping one day I can have the resources and everything to kind of try to do one more of those where no one's looking over my back and we can kind of do whatever we want. It was really fun. It was a really fun project.
Well, it was really fun to watch, and I'm in. Whatever your next thing is, I'm in.
Oh,
I will help kickstart it. I will help get the word out. I am in. That was awesome.
Thanks.
So you wrote, directed, produced. What else did you do in that movie? You edited it. You did everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a lot of hats, but I mean, a lot of people had a lot of hats in that project. Everybody had to do a lot of things to kind of get it working. Over the years, I basically kind of built a small little team. Crush the Skull was based off of a short film that I'd done years ago that ended up winning a couple of festivals, and that kind of gave us the momentum to be able to do the feature. But, like one of the big things was that we won this little festival that gave us a Panavision package. And so we were able to get $100,000 worth of equipment for free.
Wow.
For our movie. So a lot of the guys who did, the short film I shot with literally 6 people. We shot in the middle of nowhere, and I remember my actress even we didn't even have a bathroom, and she was like, I had to go pee in the bushes, and I was just so embarrassed. But anyway, they ended up winning a couple film festivals, and so throughout the years, I was kind of building this network, and so it was just all a bunch of guys who were all really good friends of mine, and we all just kind of got together and said, hey, let's do this thing together. And so we did it, and we shot it in 18 days, and then before you know it, it was out there. It was a fun project. I hope we can do that again.
Did you shoot it in California?
Yep. Did shoot it in California, even though, I would have loved to have shot it in Texas. I wanted the callback of being in Travis County. And, there's all these things I wanted to do, but, I just couldn't. So I imagined basically the world was kind of they're in the city, in Austin, and then they end up in a smaller, rich area, what's out there nowadays. I don't even know, what the nice areas are anymore.
Cedar Park.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. That's how I imagined it. And then, we just basically had to make it work based off of being in California and, not having the resources to bring a whole crew and cast over to Texas and shooting it there.
Yeah, no kidding. You won that Panavision package. Was that to keep or to use?
No, just to use. So we rented all the film package, cameras, the lenses. These lenses are some of these lenses $80,000 or whatever. And we were able to use all of this basically for free for our project.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, obviously we wouldn't have been able to make the movie without that.
So, are you Vietnamese?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so since I'm talking to the Vietnamese Dawson from Dawson's Creek, how instrumental was Dawson in your life? Just kidding.
You know what? It's so funny. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually about to say this, because I'm actually friends with Kevin Williamson too. I actually never watched the show. So, KW, I hope you're not listening. But, it's funny. And Rob Thomas wrote on that show. He was the first staff writer hired on that show. I actually saw Rob's episode that he wrote, which was episode 2 or 3 or whatever it was, way back in the day, but I never watched the show otherwise.
Well, that must have made it a little bit interesting when I'm assuming that later on when you directed episodes of the current The Flash, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, now, Dawson's father played the Flash back in the 90s, and he plays the Flash's father on this current iteration, as well as some alternate Flashes. Did you get to direct him?
No, I didn't. I never met him, but I know who you're talking about. But no, I never. So I didn't.
Oh, lucky you. He would have been like, hey, didn't you like my turn on Dawson's Creek? And then you would have had to fess up.
Exactly. Yeah, I've done one Flash. I'll be doing another one this year. So, yeah, those guys are great. They're all really, really great, nice people and everything. So in my one episode, I did not meet him.
So the one episode that you did, was it this past season?
Yeah, it sure was. It was the second to last episode.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that Neil Sandilands was in that episode?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you saw through that whole season.
Oh, yes, I did.
It's the episode where he, uses all the powers of everyone and, beats the shit out of all these guards at the beginning of that episode.
It's basically the culmination of the entire season.
Yeah. It was that one big action scene that kind of opens the show up. That one whole scene, took a whole day to shoot.
I bet.
Which was probably, 65 seconds of TV's time, but, it took us a day to shoot that whole thing.
Right.
We, 20 stuntmen and blew up some walls and did all that stuff. Yeah, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
It was great. Now, I don't know if you know this about Neil, but I did have him on my podcast right after the season ended, or right after the season, after the season, I guess, wrap, before the finale aired. But in my interview with him, he did let me play a song that he sang in his native language of Afrikaans.
Oh.
And it is beautiful and amazing. So when you get a chance, you should check out my episode with him.
No, I do want to, but yes, I should listen to the episode anyway, because I love the guy. The guy's awesome.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah, so great. Even when he's doing a fight scene with all these visual effects on a DC comic show, he just comes off, he's exudes wisdom, and he just, even when he's beating the shit out of people and flying guys across the room, he just does it so effortlessly, and just, he's so badass in the most subtle ways. I loved everything he did in that episode.
Well, then you will enjoy our episode, because he breaks into some literary stuff and he gets very educational. He's a very, very educated man. He's real smart. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
So you
definitely, yeah. I'm sure he's like, have you seen this French film? And I'm like, I've seen Star Wars.
I'm sure they dubbed that in French. Does that count? I'm so uncultured. When I went to Paris, I was watching Friends on TV in French.
That's awesome. No, but it's kind of what you're supposed to do. That you don't skip everything else, but my wife and I, when we go somewhere, when we went to Italy, obviously, you go and you see the culture and everything. But I think part of the interesting part of the culture too is to kind of see what their version of McDonald's is. So every country we always go to, we always like to go to the McDonald's there and just see how's it different here, So I get it. You can watch Friends in French if you want.
Thanks.
It's a cultural thing.
It is. When we went to France, we did go to the McDonald's also, because, I wanted a Royale with cheese. And, which goes back to Tarantino, which we started talking about before.
Oh, right, yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed, and this was in 2014, they had those automated kiosks there. You just walk up and start pushing buttons. You don't have to talk to anybody, and they just bring you your food. But
oh, wow.
They also had macaroons. I mean, they had some amazing desserts at McDonald's that you wouldn't expect.
Oh, so it's nicer. It's the quality of food is actually better, just because probably the quality of food is just better in the whole country.
They also had some menu items that we don't really have here. They had some Tabasco chicken sandwich or some weird crazy shit like that. It was all really good. I highly recommend going to McDonald's if you're ever in Paris.
Hey, streetwalkers. Well, you're not literally streetwalkers, but now that I've got your attention, I am Stephen O'Reilly, and I have a podcast called The Bar Star Podcast. And since you're listening to the Fascination Street podcast, I think you should check out my show. It's just as interesting without all the famous people, because Steve has connections that I just do not have. But if you dig podcasts about music, working musicians, and other random shit that I decided to talk about, based around music, of course, because that's what I do. I'm a working musician for the past 30 years, then you need to check out the Bar Star Podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast, on any platform, and make sure you check out barstarpodcast.com. Now back to the one and only Steve Owens and whatever the hell he was talking about.
You know what? I forgot to tell you, because I did say I would tell a story about Waco. So when I was Rob Thomas's student in high school, the whole Branch Davidian story thing happened. And we came into class, and that morning it's on the news, it's on CNN that, there's a big standoff that's happening at the Branch Davidian compound. And I remember watching it, and I'm a 16, 17-year-old aspiring journalist at this point because, this class was like basically changed my life. And I turned to my friend and I'm like, Waco is only about an hour and a half away. And Rob Thomas goes, if you plan on skipping school to go cover this story, I do not condone skipping school at all. However, if you do it, here are some questions you should ask. And so my friend and I, Unlo, who's like an Austin filmmaker, he and I just like jumped in my car and we like drove all the way to Waco and got to the media checkpoint. And we show up with our cameras and everything, our little VHS cameras and everything. I think the most genius thing that Bob had us do as journalists in our school is that we used the ID machine and we made like media passes with our pictures on it. And it basically had like this, thing that said like, I went to Reagan High School and it's like Reagan Media. And it just said basically let this person go through to any kind of, for media access for games and blah, blah, blah and all this stuff. And, I used to use it just to get into football games for free, but like we flashed this damn card at the media checkpoint during the Branch Davidian I showed it to like a sheriff there, and we're like, we're Reagan Media, and they're like, he's like, Reagan Media, who's that? What's Reagan Media? We're like, we cover the news for high school kids, and he's all like, high school kids? I don't want any high school kids getting shot up around here. And then he kind of looks around and he's like, all right, well keep your head down, and he waves us through. And so we drive up and we like literally park next to a big ass satellite bus from CNN and all these other places, NBC, all these places. And like we just basically put our tripod up, and we even like use like some of the overflow of lights from like one of the big media networks for our interview. And then we like interviewed like the actual guys that are getting interviewed by CNN who got shot at. Like I was like, hey, can I interview you next? And he's like, sure, and he's like, and so we just like interviewing like the same guys who kind of like were right there when like all this gunfire happened, and we were like, we got all these quotes from these guys, and we came back with a story. It was just like the craziest thing. We were, I think, 16, 17 years old at the time.
That is amazing. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, and what's funny though is that, so I've been telling the story for years because it's, it is a pretty crazy story, but I was able to finally track down the news story that we did about it. And it's literally like 45 seconds and like the shittiest writing that I've ever seen in my life. It's almost like written like it's like an afterthought story that happens on your local news channel when there was a tofu festival today, and here's what happened. It's like, it literally just felt like that. But anyway, in high school, it felt like this epic story. And I think when I think of it, it is like there are a lot of crazy things that happen for us to get into there and like even get the story. But then when I actually watch the story itself, it's actually pretty crappy.
Well, that's funny because if I would have done it in high school, it would have been questions like, were you on the free lunch program? And do you remember your locker combination?
Exactly.
That is hilarious. So, Rob Thomas, I believe that the FBI is going to come after you now for contributing to the delinquency of some minors.
Yeah. It was a pretty badass. I mean, keep in mind the guy, he was only like 26 years old when he was only 10 years older than us. So he was a kid of sorts, on his own, like just basically watching over kids. And all he wanted to do was be in a rock band anyway at the time.
Once Matchbox 20 hit, he had to change his major.
Right, exactly.
So tell me about working on Legends of Tomorrow. Have you worked with Adam Sakeman?
Yes, I have. Now, I only get to work with him for one small, tiny scene in my episode. I know that he he's got a lot more going on, but like in my episode, it was a very specific episode, so I only got like a couple of the guys in my full episode. So, but yes, the guy's super funny, and actually he has overlapping friends with me as well. He knows a couple of other guys that I know, other actors. So yes, very, very funny guy.
He was also on my show, and his episode.
Oh, awesome.
His episode was hilarious. That is a very, very funny guy. And I ended up getting, I guess there's sort of a small company or just one person that makes merchandise for that show. And she made a pop vinyl figure of him for me to give away.
Oh, wow.
That's super cool, right?
That is really cool.
I think the only one she made was for him, but then I had her make one for me so I could give it away, but that was pretty cool. And then now I guess you're working on Lucifer also?
Yeah, I'll be starting on prep on Lucifer tomorrow, actually. And that is actually a group of people that I've never worked with, so I know the show, obviously, but
sure.
I've never worked with that group before.
So are you going to be directing as well?
I'll be directing an episode of Lucifer, yeah.
Okay, so how hard was it for you to make the jump from editing to directing?
It's interesting. By the time that I directed my first episode of TV, which was iZombie, I had already directed a few other things, and I think I've directed probably like, I'm not even shitting you, like 80 short films. So like I've been kind of doing it for a long time, like obviously on a smaller scale. And I also was directing a show that I had edited, and I basically had met a lot of the cast already before then from other projects or just from being on that show anyway. When it got there, obviously I was just nervous in the sense that it was my first time, but like the fundamentals of everything that I normally do was, I still did that. And I guess there was just like a lot of extra pressure on myself to just like do a good job for Rob, since it's like my first time doing it for him. So in a way, he's always just kind of been, as you can see, he's been a mentor to me all my life. So I just kind of wanted to do a good job for him too. But once I got that first one out of the way, everything else just kind of went naturally. And then before you know it, I've directed a whole bunch of other shows, and it's kind of been pretty seamless, actually. There's bumps in the road, obviously, in any show, but luckily, so far, so good as far as the cast and crew of all the shows that I've ever worked on are just all so top-notch that there's little to complain about, and I'm feeling lucky and blessed to be doing it at all. So it's just been a great ride.
Very cool. Kevin Smith, when he directs The Flash or Supergirl, he always compares it to being a fan. He says that everybody is so good at their job that he basically just shows up and watches.
It's funny. I would agree in a lot of ways, because I think, they have a crew that does their thing. And these actors, when I went and did The Flash, it was like episode 91 for these guys. There's nothing, and it was episode 1 for me. It's like my first time doing their show. So, there's only so much that I can tell them about themselves in fact, I have nothing to tell them about themselves that they don't already know themselves. So, really what you're trying to do is you're just trying to, well, first of all, don't fuck it up. You don't want to fuck it up. But, and then you're just trying to find a couple of fun things that you feel like maybe you can bring in as new energy or whatever. And that's really kind of all you can do. And it's exactly like what you said. It's just let them do their thing and just be happy and, feel lucky that you get to be there and to watch them do their thing. It's pretty fun, and it's pretty amazing.
Now, The Flash and I think Legends shoots in Vancouver. Does Lucifer?
No, Lucifer shoots in Los Angeles. So I'm here in Los Angeles. So Lucifer shoots in Los Angeles. iZombie, Legends, Flash, those all shoot in Vancouver.
Gotcha. How can they afford to shoot in Los Angeles? Holy moly.
I think Lucifer actually used to shoot in Vancouver, and then they moved over to LA through a lottery for, I think you can apply to shoot in LA and get a little bit of a discount or something. I don't know. I don't even know I'm talking about any of that. I don't know any of that stuff. But so Lucifer I think got lucky and was able to move.
Well, you are a screenwriter, so feel free to just make shit up, man.
Exactly. That shit takes work, though. It's not on the fly screenwriting. It's you got to sit there and tweak stuff, and even on the day before we're shooting, we're tweaking stuff.
How often do you do that as a director for TV? As a guest director?
As a guest director, I think your job is definitely follow the script. And I think, if anything, especially like those guys on The Flash, they're so good at who they are that they'll come up with stuff on their own that's just so funny that you have to shoot it as an option. Or, sometimes they just replace things that are written in the script because it's just so good, and you kind of let them go, let them kind of freestyle on their own. But as a director, it's kind of not really my job to like rewrite anything. And I don't even say kind of, it's not my job to rewrite anything. My job is to kind of like deliver what's on the page and make it the coolest thing possible on the page. And then, work with them. If things aren't working or whatever, then the writer is usually sitting there with you, or you can easily reach out and say, hey, can we tweak this a little bit? And then the actors kind of do that on their own as well.
Gotcha.
So you just kind of let them do their thing.
Now, a little bit of a transition. Let's talk about your family. Feel free to opt out of any answer you don't want to give. But Asian parents usually expect a lot of their children. And so how disappointed were your parents when you told them you were going to get into show business?
Well, I don't know if I wouldn't say that they were disappointed. I think they were just really confused. I think they were just kind of like, wait, what are you doing? Now, I will say, though, that I was a little lucky because during my time, when I was in high school and I really got into all this media stuff, and when Rob was my teacher, I actually won a couple of awards when I was in high school. So, having success at like a young age like that kind of at least helped my parents kind of understand that I might have something here, might be good at what I'm doing. But again, it did take a long time for me to kind of finally get to my end goal, which is to direct full time. So again, it was not an overnight success whatsoever. It took me a long time, but at this point, they know what I do and everything. However, what's funny about it all is that my mom almost doesn't care about the fact that I'm doing this work. She's more affected by the fact that I moved away from home and I don't live in Austin anymore. So I'm under the impression that if I told my mom, hey, you know what, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to go work in a gas station, but I'm going to live nearby, my mom would be like, yes, that's the best news ever.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
A lot of parents have nicknames for their children. What does your mother call you? She doesn't call you Viet. What does she call you?
In my case, I had a nickname when I was really little, which is like, in Vietnamese, it's Thi, which means like tiny or runt or whatever. And I think that's like just like a common like nickname that you call the youngest of the group. But that only lasted through a certain time, and then otherwise, I'm just plain old Viet.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask you this, and this may sound super racist, but I don't intend it that way. Does your mother make pho?
Well, actually, no, that is not racist to ask if my Vietnamese mother makes a Vietnamese soup. Nowadays, it's actually easier to, like, just go to the store, and there's so many pho restaurants nowadays. But, yes, when we were kids, yeah, the only pho you can get was when your mom made it.
Oh,
I actually make a mean pho. I have a broth that I make for 16 hours, and then it's kind of like a family tradition where when all the family gets together for every year for Christmas, all the kids we are all in charge of one day of meals because there's four kids, and the day I do it is I make a pho, which takes about 16 hours to get that broth going.
That's amazing. One time I made Chef David Chang's Momofuku ramen broth, and that took for fucking ever. It literally took 12 hours. I mean, you're like baking bone. Well, first you got to go ask your butcher for some very bizarre shit. And then you're baking bones and boiling shit and pulling meat off and then it's crazy. But man,
and
it's
how was it, though?
So good. Oh my gosh. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I keep doing it is when it pays off to be like a good meal, you're just like, okay, I guess I'll do this again. But, that kind of stuff, it's hard to just do. It's a big commitment to do for like just a small group of, just me and my wife, or, like I used to make pho and my wife and I would have to eat it for like a week. And so, but when you're together with like a big group of people and you make it, then it's worth it.
I could eat pho all day, every day for the rest of my life. I love pho so much.
Well, actually, I'm pretty close to that, too.
Good. One of the things that I like about pho is that they name them the weirdest shit, like the restaurants.
Oh, right. Yes.
My favorite one is Pho Ha Long.
Yeah, there's like a Forever Yum here. There is absolutely fabulous.
Oh my
There's one of
god.
those here too. There's some pretty good ones around here.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
9021 foe.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh,
so there's some pretty good ones.
I love it. That is fantastic. So, besides getting ready to shoot Lucifer, what do you got going on? Do you have any feature films? Are you writing anything? Are you going to make another Crust the Skull anytime soon?
You know, my co-writer Chris and I, we are kind of working on a little thing right now, but it's a slow burn to kind of get this thing going. We've been chipping away at this script forever, but it is going to be another type of horror comedy, this time involving ghosts. So that's kind of our next thing that we've been working on. And then, you know, we've also just kind of been trying to develop some other stuff for, like, television and everything. So we're cooking some stuff right now, but, like, nothing is really anywhere near the finish line at all. So it's nothing that we can really talk about at this point. And then, you know, otherwise, I'm just directing a bunch of TV shows for the rest of the year. So
Gotcha. Now, this would be Chris Den?
Yes, that's right, Chris Den.
And he, everybody, he is basically the star of Crust the Skull. I mean, it's sort of an ensemble cast, but he's one of the main dudes.
Well,
I would call him the star.
I would argue that the guy, Tim Chu, who plays Riley in my movie, is kind of the favorite. And it kind of steals the show. And we always kind of knew it, too. We always knew, oh, man, it's almost not fair. He gets to say all the funny stuff. Gets to be the funny guy.
He definitely stands out, but Chris was probably number one on the call sheet, for sure.
Yeah.
Guys, I can't stress that enough. Go to Amazon Prime and watch this movie, Crust the Skull. You're going to love it. You're welcome in advance.
Yeah, it's free. I mean, everyone has Amazon, so check it out. But yes, it's funny. Like I said, I mean, there are a lot of warts in that movie. We did it for so little money. It's funny, my friends who are actors in that movie text me their residual checks all the time. They literally get a residual check for $0. I mean, like, it costs more money to send that residual check than, like, what they're actually getting. You know, it was a very small movie. It's tiny. We did it for basically nothing. But, you know, we're very proud of it. In a lot of ways.
Hey, Viet, do you have any presence on YouTube?
You can search Crush the Skull on YouTube, and my short films are on there, Crush the Skull 1 and 2. And then and I have a couple of other things on there as well.
Okay. Hey, just out of curiosity, when you first started editing, were you editing on a Steam Deck?
No. Started editing straight to Avid, actually. Final Cut Pro was like, well, if you want to go really far back, I was editing tape to tape and then ended up doing Premiere, and then went to Final Cut Pro, and then, like, when I started doing TV stuff, it was all Avid by then.
Oh, cool. Well, Viet, before I let you go, is there anything that we didn't talk about or I didn't bring up that you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, I appreciate it. Thanks for being interested at all. It's fun talking to you, and I'm always down to talk to a fellow Texan. Yeah, I mean, you know, if anything, we didn't talk about any Texas stuff, but it's okay. I'm okay with that.
Nobody cares about that.
Exactly.
Except those of us who live in Texas.
I'm sure everybody's tuning in to talk about, so they can hear my feelings about Manu retiring and how we lost Kawhi Leonard, but it's okay.
And we also lost Tony Parker. Don't forget that one.
Yeah, exactly.
And Danny Green. You know what, dude? You're going to make me cry. Knock it off.
Exactly. Yeah. Once you said Danny Green, I was just like, oh, you're really piling on now.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that this coming season will be Greg Popovich's last year.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where there's a part of me that thinks that we might actually be surprised just how genius Popovich is. But who knows? We'll see.
Well, he is a super genius, but he wanted to retire with Tim. I believe that LaMarcus Aldridge had it in his contract that he wouldn't come here unless Pop agreed to 3 more years.
Right.
And so I think this will be his third year.
I'm interested to see. I mean, we still won a shit ton of games last year without Kawhi ever, and then now we don't have Kawhi, but we have DeMar. We won't have Danny Green, of course, but you know. So I'm interested. It's going to be a very curious season. It
is going to be a very curious season. Maybe Marco Bellinelli will step up and be a super badass.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, you know, Murray is just like a young blood who like has a bunch of potential. So, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. And in Pop's defense, we haven't missed the playoffs in 20 years. So,
yep.
Even when we've had slow seasons and you know, missing talent.
Even without Kawhi Leonard last year, we still almost won 50 games. So, I mean, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It was without Kawhi at all. It was without Tim at all. Mostly without Tony or Manu. So, yeah.
Yep.
Well done. All right, cool. Viet, if you're ever in Austin, which I know you are, dude, your family lives there, reach out, dude. I live in San Antonio. That's not far away. I'll come hang out with you, buy you a beer. We'll go have pho together. Oh, my gosh.
Sure. Sounds great, man. Yeah, I'll hit you up when next time I'm in town.
Cool. All right, man. Well, you take it easy.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy working on Lucifer, and thank you again so much for taking the time out of your super busy schedule to hang out and talk with me on Fascination Street.
No, it's super fun. Thanks, man.
Have a great day, Viet.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, guys. This is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast here with a very important message. I'm awesome. I bet you thought I was going to say something else, but nope. What's important here is that I am awesome. I started this show because I truly believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear those stories. In the short time I've been doing this show, I've interviewed actors, directors, writers, inventors, podcasters, musicians, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, actual war heroes, even a Bond girl and a luthier, whatever the hell that is, and of course, regular people. From people who wanted to be stars but never gave it a real try, to big company CEOs and people who got to meet their favorite president. I love getting to meet and speak with people who have a story to tell. I feel like everyone does, and it's my job to get them to tell it. You never know who my next guest will be. An Academy Award-winning actor, a platinum-selling musician, or your own mother-in-law. But one thing is for certain, you will be fascinated by their story. So come take a walk with me down Fascination Street. You can find Fascination Street Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, FascinationStreetPod.com. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.